Hi, hello, welcome back to Cottage Cake. Today, we'll be crocheting these My Melody and Kuromi masks. For this video, let's start with Kuromi first. I used number 5 yarn and a 6.5mm hook. Quick tip, if you don't have number 5 yarn, you can also use number 3 yarn doubled up. Start with a slip knot, then chain 18. Now slip stitch back into chain 1. Row 1, chain 2. Then make 6 double crochets. Now chain 10. Count 5 stitches to skip. And double crochet into the 6th stitch. Double crochet 5 more times. Slip stitch back into chain 2 to complete the row. Row 2, start with chain 2. Make 4 double crochets. Two, double crochet increase into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next. This chain 10 below will be the front of the mask. Skip the first 2 chain stitches and slip stitch into the 3rd chain. Slip stitch again into the 4th chain. Now to make this part of Kuromi's mask, we'll be moving the yarn to the bottom of the chain. Chain 1 and flip. Single crochet into the bottom loop of the 5th chain. Chain 1 again. And single crochet into the bottom loop of the 6th chain. Now let's move the yarn back to the top of the chain. Chain 1 and slip stitch into the 7th and 8th chain. skip the last 2 chain stitches and double crochet into the DC stitch below. Make a 2 double crochet increase into the next stitch. Double crochet 3 times. Then make a 2 double crochet increase into the last stitch. Slip stitch back into chain 2 to complete the row. Row 3, chain 2. Then make a 3 double crochet decrease. Repeat this 3 double crochet decrease 6 more times. Double crochet into the last stitch. Lastly, slip stitch into the stitch after, chain 2. You can chain 1 and cut right here to finish the base of the mask. It should be a bit loose and stretchy enough to fit the doll head. Now for the ears, we will be using the simple Tunisian stitch. With simple Tunisian crochet, each row is made with a forward pass of picking up loops from right to left and a backward pass, pulling yarn through those loops from left to right. Row 1, start with a slip knot, then chain 3. Forward pass. Now we're going to turn the chain and pull 2 loops through these top stitches. We should have 3 loops total on our hook. Backward pass, pull yarn through 1 loop, then 2 loops at a time, until the end of the row. For row 2, we'll be increasing our columns to 5. Yarn over, then pull a loop from this column in the middle. Again, yarn over and pull another loop from the end column. We should now have 5 loops total on our hook. Backward pass, pull yarn through 1 loop, then 2 loops at a time, until the end of the row. Row 3, forward pass, pull 4 loops through these front columns, all the way to the end. Remember to pull the yarn from the front and back loop of the last column for an even seam. We should now have 5 loops total on our hook. Backward pass, pull yarn through 2 to decrease on one side. Then pull through 2. Lastly, pull through 3 loops to decrease again on the other side. This creates a diamond shape for Kuromi's ears. Row 4, forward pass, pull 2 loops through these front columns. We should now have 3 loops on our hook. Backward pass, pull yarn through 1 loop, then 2 loops at a time, until the end of the row. Row 5, forward pass, pull 2 loops through these front columns. 3 loops total on our hook. Backward pass, pull yarn through all 3 loops to decrease, and complete that diamond shape. Now we're going to make a puff on the top. Start with chain 2. We'll be pulling yarn only from the loop behind chain 1. Yarn over and pull 1 loop. Then pull yarn through only 2 loops on your hook. Again, yarn over and pull 1 loop. Then pull yarn through just 2 loops on your hook. Last one, yarn over and pull 1 loop. Then pull yarn through just 2 loops on your hook. Finally, pull yarn through all of these 4 loops. Chain 1. Then slip stitch back into that very same back loop. This folds over the puff you just made and creates that sphere on top of Kuromi's ears. You can just chain 1 and cut here, but for an even more defined shape, we'll be making slip stitches along the edges. Slip stitch 3 times. Then chain 1 and continue with 2 slip stitches on this side. Slip stitch 3 times on the bottom edge. Remember to keep these slip stitches tight. It will help with the structure and keep the ears upright. Slip stitch twice again. Chain 1, then slip stitch 3 more times. Now, to make the top of the diamond shape more pointy, slip stitch back into the very first slip stitch. You can also switch to a smaller hook to make this a bit easier. Pull tight and chain 1. Cut your yarn here and weave it in. Repeat this exact pattern for the second ear. And now we can sew them to the base. Flatten the mask first to see where the middle line is and position them on both sides. And now the mask is finished. Now let's add just one more detail. To make a puffy crochet heart, start with a slip knot, then chain 3. Yarn over and pull a loop from the back loop of chain 1. pull yarn through just 2 loops. Again, yarn over and pull yarn from the same stitch, and pull yarn through just 2 loops. Now pull yarn through all 3 loops on your hook and chain 1. This completes one side of the heart. Chain 2 and slip stitch back into the same stitch. We will repeat this for the other half of the heart. Chain 2. Yarn over and pull a loop from the back loop of chain 1. Pull yarn through just 2 loops. Again, yarn over and pull yarn from the same stitch, and pull yarn through just 2 loops. Now pull yarn through all 3 loops on your hook and chain 1. Slip stitch twice along the side. And slip stitch back into the very first chain stitch. Chain 1 and cut. Position your puffy heart on the center and weave or sew it in. After weaving, I wanted to make the heart a bit more defined, so I needle felted over it with the same yarn that was used to crochet this heart. After a few more tweaks, we're finally finished. One last thing, this space on top makes it easier to add a chain. Check out the tutorial for the matching My Melody mask, and maybe this easy crochet overalls too. Which Sanrio mask should I make next? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, and maybe subscribe to see even more.